Wow, very cool, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so what I was talking about here was this thing. This is my beautiful bamboo plant, and I have a little, what is the superstition about bamboo, right? And what's interesting is we're talking about the world of possibilities, and I got this plant that I thought, I don't know if you saw me during the interview, but what I did was I literally turned around to the back. And what I was doing was, I don't know if you've seen me do it, but the plant was like coming in on the video, and I turned around to see if it was something over here, right?
Right.
I mean, you can't see the forest for the trees. And so I don't know what it was that one of you said, and it was like, oh my gosh, it is the bamboo. But this is really what it's the bamboo. And after, I'm trying to figure it out, I'm trying to think if it's a control. It's like the bamboo is in the picture. But how
Yeah.
often does that happen in life, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we do it all the time.
And
Yeah.
I think that would be being bamboozled, right?
Yeah, that would be being bamboozled. But we did this with you, Andrew. We were
Hmm.
not going to turn the video on, right, Glenna? But Glenna, you knew to turn the video on, and I knew to turn the video on.
Yeah.
But
Oh
we
yeah,
kind of went to
totally.
that place of, oh, it's gonna if we turn his video on and it screws up the interview, then we got a different deal. But we said, let's turn the video on because
It
it
was
may come
coming
on.
on.
Yeah.
And then the magical mystical formula was within what? It had to be within about a minute. It's and it didn't flutter throughout the entire hour. Had you guys
Oh, that's
noticed that?
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Now,
as soon as you asked you as soon as you introduced him and said Andrew, and you wanted him to start talking, he was there.
yeah, he was
That's
there.
See, I just needed an introduction and my video was going to work. That's all it was. I was just waiting for the right moment. But it is
Absolutely.
so funny because I was so focused on getting it to work. I'm reading all this stuff on the internet. I'm like, I've never had this issue before. What the and I was getting, like you said, video envy. I was like, they're going to be on video and I'm going to be over
Exactly.
here on audio. This is going to stink. And
Yeah.
I'm like, and then I just let it go because I'm like, I can't focus on this with the show. I let it go and all of a sudden my video starts working. So,
Yeah, and and so I had to get up and go get my tea, right? So I went and got my tea. So I'm so like absorbed about the video because we went through the pre-test, right? So I
mhm.
go in and I make my green tea and I put the tea in the thing and whatever it is I'm doing. Um, but I have ginger, right? I have this ginger that is ground up and really kind of cool, and I keep a stash of it, right? I've got like a stash. But I also have garlic, ground up garlic, and ground up ginger
Oh, no,
look the same.
you didn't.
Uh-oh. So you
Ooh,
got minty fresh breath right now.
garlic green tea right here. And could you see me drinking it? And you notice I never like flinched.
You
I
didn't?
didn't
No.
flinch. I
No.
didn't flinch, drank the tea, drank the whole thing. And I'm telling you, I put a good 2 teaspoons of that stuff in.
That's awesome.
Man, that
Teaspoons of that in here. And you know what? Here, I'm just saying, I'm Italian. I'm just saying, I'm going to be at a conference this weekend. That will come right through my pores for the next, I'm telling you, the next couple days, that'll come right through my pores. And you know what? That is just the way it's going to be.
Like you said, you're Italian.
I am Italian. Well, it's really exciting. And, there's just so much that I think that people are really hungry for. I've heard this on the show this week, and I don't know. I didn't mention it during the interview. I didn't mention it during the interview, but one of the things that comes up, it has been coming up for people is they are really now, they've been waiting. They've been in the waiting mode for 8 years. And the shift of energy is they're done waiting. Now, whatever the reason is, waiting mode, it doesn't really matter. But they're now in this mode now where the waiting is over. And the sense is, I want change now. And isn't that what the classes are about? It's not for, sort of a delayed gratification. It's for learning how to create shift in that moment, isn't it?
Absolutely. absolutely changed now, and that occurs at the class. I don't know if anyone's ever been through a class that it didn't come out at the other end with change.
Right.
Sometimes not something they don't notice changes for a few weeks or a month later, but you just realize the things that got in your way don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
That's huge change for people. And yeah, now is the time. I think, yeah, you're true. People are asking for change in a different way. They've gone out of the waiting room. They know something else is possible. So many people are looking for something totally different.
Yeah. And Andrew, don't you think though they want some tools that not just, oh wait, I'm going to read a book and then I'm going to, they want a tools that they can practice and use and learn more and grow and build upon, and their lives change on a day-to-day basis. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I share a story in my book that I'm writing about, it was a point in time in my life I was homeless. And, I've gone through a couple different things, but I remember a scenario that I was in a grocery store, right? And it was very sketchy about what I had in my bank account, what I didn't have in my bank account. It was a really tough time in my life. And I remember going through the line and I had the card, and all of a sudden the cash register person and my card was like in that, just like we were doing with the video, where it was like circling and processing, processing, processing. And the fear that happens when we're stuck in that mode. And my sense is that folks are really wanting to come out of a very similar thing that's been happening for about 8 years. I don't know. What is your sense? You go around the world. What are you sensing that people are really wanting to activate?
I think it's so because access is just growing so dynamically. It's amazing. It's like the amount of people that show up and the change that's available. I was just talking to a bars facilitator today because I'll call people for access, and he said I ran my son's bars for 15 minutes and he had migraines for like all years, and in 15 minutes they've been gone and they haven't come back.
Wow.
And it's like, what? I mean, and this is like, like I get excited about little changes, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then I continue talking to him and he's like, yeah, I was depressed for as long as I can remember and I had my bars run and it's just been gone.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's just these things that are like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I have people that talk about coming to these classes and they're just like, oh, like the fear's gone, like you said, or my family, I can deal with them, like they don't get under my skin, and like those are cool. But it's just like all these changes that people have, and it's just even Glenna's story I still find so cool about your spider.
Oh, right, right. This was Access gave me so many little hints
Uh-huh.
about how amazing it was that I could not ever discount that I kept doing it. And one of them was I had a phobia of spiders that was crazy since I was a 3-year-old. I couldn't be in a room with them. I'd sweat. I'd want to even cry. I couldn't look at pictures of spiders. And it's something that, there's no therapies that really work with that except for cognitive behavioral, where you actually start to, bring yourself closer to spiders. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's no way I would have ever done that. That was I'll just be afraid of spiders because I'm not going through that. After my first foundation class, and we never talked about spiders. It never brought it up once. It was just something that was part of my life that I dealt with. I avoided spiders. There was a spider that was on my shoes, were beside this couch I was taking a nap on, and I looked down over the couch, and there was a spider walking across my shoe, and I watched it. I just watched it, and after it walked across the shoe, I was like, "Oh my God! Oh my God! It's gone!" And since then, I can touch a spider, I can watch them, I can see pictures of them. None of this stuff happens. It was never part of who I was. It was something I bought. I had, had it stuck in my psyche for years. It was never there. And with this class, it was gone. And one of the things we talk about a lot is fear is not real.
Right.
Fear is something that distracts you from what you know. Now, the coolest thing is now there's a magical quality to spiders that I was probably avoiding.
Yes, there is.
Life. That now sometimes when they're everywhere, I start asking questions like, what's going on here?
Do you know that they are my totem?
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, the people wanted to come and they live in the drains in houses. They live in the top part of the drain that the water doesn't come in. And they wanted to come in and they want to clean a drain. And I'm like, no, I go out my door, right? Yeah, I go out my door. there are spider webs everywhere. So the other morning I had to go to a meeting, an early morning meeting, and I walked through the spider web, right? You're going to love this. Walked through the spider web, carried the spider with to the meeting. Get to the meeting. I'm sitting next to a woman who is deathly afraid of spiders, right? And this and the spider, and all of a sudden the spider just crawling off me, and it gets on the floor, and this woman was like, oh, she was going to die. So what do? I get up to go get a paper cup, because all I want to do is I want to put the paper cup on the spider so somebody doesn't kill it. Now, here I am with this spider in this paper cup, and this woman, somehow between the 5 minutes with the paper cup, the spider gets out, and the spider then is crawling up on the person that is speaking. It is a big brown spider. It's like they're safe. They're not like but it's this big, you can't miss the spider. And it's crawling up on this person. And what happened in this moment, because I didn't pay any attention to it, was this woman got to experience this spider crawling up on the woman, crawling down off the woman, and no one getting hurt.
Right.
Right? And it is really fascinating to kind of watch that, just like you said. But I really had to, in that moment, really ask that question. Otherwise, I was going to go to try to fix it. I was going to go, if I went to fear, you see me going and rescuing this woman from the spider that I actually brought in, and the guilt and the shame about all of that was going through my mind. And there's a point that we let go, isn't there? And that's also something we didn't talk about today, is what happens in, the access classes, which enable people to not fixate on things, right? Isn't that part of it?
Definitely. I mean, we talk about a lot of our thoughts, feelings, and emotions aren't ours. And like, how many of the thoughts of the woman afraid of the spider, and what would, what is like would be, so that you would say, who does this belong to? Is this even mine? Is this even mine? Is there something I need to do here? What's the spider creating? Is the spider contributing to something I'm not even acknowledging yet? He could have been helping out with the entire show. It's funny because I know these spiders. I grew up in Seattle, and I know the exact.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know the web you walked into. I can totally tell. And when they're really big,
they're big.
They're big.
Right.
Yeah.
Every day I walk out and I say hi to them, and they're not just like in one place. There's like one over there. There's one over there. There's one by the gate. There's one. But here's fascinating. So I finally got it. Put the little white cup on it. Right. Nobody really paid much attention to that. Somebody was cleaning up and literally just picked up the cup. Let the spider go. So the spider is somewhere in that room for the whole rest of the time, just having a good old time wherever that spider was. And, something that could have been so devastating and literally a showstopper at a meeting like that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, and we're in Seattle. So, Andrew, I don't know if you know anything about Seattle, but generally, if you see a spider, you are not going to kill that spider.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's about nature. It's about nature. But so I don't know, Andrew, I hope I'm not scaring you. So when you come here, I hope you don't.
No, I'm good with spiders. I had a spider that I used to live on a horse farm in chiropractic school. I rented a room that was on the farm. So I would have spiders in his windows, and there was this big, it was like the size of it looked like it was a little bit bigger than a 50-cent piece, like around. It's a big spider, and it's black. I'm like, I don't know if you're poisonous. I didn't do the research or anything, but I'm like, you might be. I'm like, you stay in this windowsill and we'll be fine. Just don't come in like my little studio, I'm like, you stay there, I stay there, here, we're good, but I can't have you like crawling over me in my sleep or something. That's just like, a little bit too far. And so like one of the days I remember it's like in my place and I'm like, oh gosh. So I just like took a Coke, like a 12-ounce or a 12-pack Coke thing and like scooped it up and just set it back outside again. And never had any problems. But I was like, I'm not going to kill it. I just, I'm just like, crawling all over me or like wandering around in my apartment just a little too close.
Yeah. It is my totem. The theme of the spider, what the spider theme, one of the spider themes is, that the weaver and the web are one.
Yeah, and it is about future and creating
Yeah.
futures and things like that. There's images. That's yeah, about
Yeah.
that.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you guys so
yeah.
very, very much.